Hey guys, welcome back. I was watching this National Geographic Survival of the Fittest, and I made a connection to it from this to my personal life, and just as a human, just thinking how you have to risk to succeed, right? There has to be some sort of risk. Otherwise, you'll stay stagnant. And it just kind of made me think of how us as humans, we're adaptive creatures, right? Wherever we go, we're going to adapt to that environment. And it makes you think sometimes you're like, am I lazy? Why am I not like ambitious? Why am I not moving forward? Well, it goes back to environment, right? Like this, look at this leopard right here. The environment dictates that it acts a certain way to survive, right? It has to kill its prey. It has to, have certain skills, certain, attributes to survive. If it doesn't, then it dies off. And as humans, we live in a very comfortable world, and I see that, right? You could literally be like, okay, I make just enough to pay my bills, and I'm good, right? Like I could just cruise by and not do anything else. Also, you don't have to work out, right? Like I don't have to be fast. I don't have to be strong. We live in a world that doesn't require that. So, because I don't know, if someone punches you in the face or whatever, you might be like, well, I could just call the cops or whatever. But in reality, you have to adapt to your certain environment. And I started attributing that to my own life and just thinking, okay, well, I always think I'm a very risk adverse person by nature. But then I started realizing that doesn't make any sense. Like if the real risk, even if you're risk adverse and you play it very safe, if you play it safe, the safest thing you could do is risk, right? Because you have to put yourself, and this is going to be like the nerdiest thing ever, but like go back to Dragon Ball Z. Every time Goku goes through a battle, he levels up, right? Like anytime he goes through some sort of like adversity, he levels up. It's the same thing with life. It's the same thing. Have you ever gone to a city and it's like, you're like a totally different person? I've had that. I live in a small city in California, but when I go to the Bay Area, when I go to like a bigger city like LA, New York, I get like a surge of energy, right? There's like an energy there. People, and I know there's a lot of transient people, right? There's not like people that, like in LA, you're gonna have a lot of people that were not really born there. They just went there to find success. But you could sense that energy. New York's the same way. You could sense that energy. It's like birds of a feather kind of flock together. In that environment, people are searching for success, and you could feel that energy. So I think a lot of times, like you might think, well, I'm tired. I'm not really motivated. In reality, it might just be your environment. It might be that you're putting yourself in a very comfortable situation that doesn't demand your mind or body to grow. You're just like, I don't want your body, when you narrow it down to the science, your mind, your body, it basically says, how can we do the least amount to survive? That's basically what it is. The least risky thing that requires the least amount of calories to survive. Right? Because I know we live in a world where we have all these comforts, but our biology is still designed for like humans that were like hunters gatherers, right? So like if you've ever been hunting and it's a life or death situation, right? You don't have like a camera crew behind you that's gonna save you if something goes wrong. If you kill an elk and you're thinking, well, shoot, I'm already hungry. By the time it's gonna, everything is, when you're in a more natural world, everything's calculated by calories, and you're thinking, okay, well, if I risk this amount of calories, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna have this more amount of calories, and that's how people would see it back in the day. But to circle this back is that environment is super, super important. And sometimes you have to kind of like break it down to like the bare minimum, the most simple things, and think, what makes my body tick? What makes my mind tick? And that is putting it in a sink or swim situation. And I haven't done that in a really long time. And when I did put myself in a sink or swim situation, it forced me to level up. Like you have to level up. And I think most people don't realize that because they think, well, I'm comfortable. Should I go for this? Should I go for that? Time passes. Excuse me. Time passes by, but you don't do anything of it. It's because your environment doesn't demand that from you. Your environment does not demand for you to level up. So most people think, well, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? With leveling up, the challenge comes before the leveling up. And most people think, I want to level up before I take on that challenge. It's not how it works. You literally have to jump into the challenge before you level up. And then that's the opportunity to level up. But anyways, I just saw this video on National Geographic and I'm like, oh, this is like tying back to just, things that I've been through, things that probably most people go through is, why am I not pushing? Some people are inherently just, very disciplined. They have a huge fire up their ass, and other people don't, right? And that's perfectly fine. It doesn't make you lazy and them better than you. It's just you are not in the right environment. That's basically what this whole video is about, is that if you feel like you're lazy, like you're not doing much, you're not in the right environment. That's basically what this whole video is about. And you have to find your right environment. So you have to dictate, okay, well, what do I want to do? What am I trying to achieve? And as you try to figure that out, you have to think, okay, well, if I'm trying to, be a movie star or trying to, compete in this sport, you have to put yourself in that before you're actually that. And that's how you get there. But you have to really analyze your environment, and it could start with something. You don't have to move to a new city right away. For all I know, the city you're in, it's the city that you need to be in, and maybe it's just a different friend group, right? Like I've been around people that are like, you could tell them like positive news, and they get closed off, reserved, and then they're just like, I don't know if that's going to work out. You probably shouldn't do that. And you're gonna have two different type of people, right? You're gonna have people that are completely just like, they love you, they don't want you to fail, so they want you to choose a safer route. So it might come off as negative, but in reality it's not negative. It's just that they want you to not fail. And for them, you not risking it is good, right? For them. And then you're gonna have other people that hate themselves and they just want you. Misery loves company. That's basically what it is. And you have to, as an adult, figure out, okay, these people are not good for me. I need to find better friends. And trust me, when I got better friends, it felt so uncomfortable because I'm like, I felt like, oh my God, I honestly felt kind of like embarrassed. You have to be comfortable in your skin, because I have friends that have like, they have multiple houses. They have, they're successful in relationships and financially. And I didn't see myself up to their level. And you have to kind of think, okay, well, most people are gonna be like, what can you provide? What can you do to get in those circles? And it's just, you have to have an open mind. You have to have, because I feel like before I used to get in circles with people that were successful, and I thought, okay, this is going to be the environment that I want to be in. But I had a very negative victim mindset where I was like, well, they're there because of this, and I'm not there because of this. And in reality, it's like, erase all that shit. Erase all that. You can't really think like that. You have to be like, regardless of how they, someone grows up or what sort of, so-called advantages, everybody is going to have an advantage and everybody's going to have a disadvantage. And it's up to you to dictate whether that's going to limit you or not. But I kind of just stopped thinking with the victim mentality, and that's how I got into an environment with better friends. But you have to dictate what you're going to start off with: friendships, work, city you live in. If you live in a city with a small ceiling, if you're trying to be, excuse me, if you're trying to be in like tech and you live in Alabama, good luck, right? It's like putting a polar bear in a desert. It's not going to survive. So you have to realize, okay, this is who I am, who I want to be, who I want to become. And you have to think, okay, well, this is the environment that I would thrive in. Animals do it all the time, right? Like a polar bear, when it's, snow starts melting, things, I keep going back to the polar bear analogy, but with any animal, right? Like when their environment starts changing, they start reverting or finding an environment that is going to be towards their success, or they're going to adapt to the environment, one or the other. But that's the same thing for humans. We're no different. We're adaptive creatures. And whatever your environment is, whether it's messy, whether it's negative, positive, stressful, we all adapt to it. Like I've had situations where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this stressful work project. And I look back years later, I'm like, oh my God, I was stressing about that. That was a piece of cake, because your mind levels up, right? Like your baseline for stress levels up. So now suddenly, that's not as stressful as it was. And that applies to everything, physical activities, social challenges, anything that you can think of. When you expose yourself to it and you adapt, it just becomes, a baseline, and then you could level up. But anyways, if you guys are in a current situation where you're thinking, I feel lazy, I feel unmotivated, I don't know what to do, just know that you probably are in the wrong environment, whether it's your friends, family, friends, whatever, work, the work you're doing, the city you live in, it could be the wrong environment for you. So you have to kind of figure out what you want to do, and then figure out which environment is going to put you up to challenge you so that you could adapt to the person you want to become. So I don't know, this kind of sounded like a motivational video. It's not. It's just basically me making a connection to, wildlife and human life, and just thinking of how, we live in a very comfortable, unnatural environment, and you kind of can't let nature decide for you on what environment works for you. You have to kind of analyze it, right? Because we don't live in a natural world. We live in a very unnatural world, right? Like I don't hunt. I go to a grocery store. That's very unnatural. So anyways, kind of analyze your environment, see what works for you, and make the change, because life is short. Life is very, very short.